This is an outrage. Karen's shrill voice pierced through the quiet auto shop. You've completely destroyed my car, and I demand a full refund immediately. The young mechanic, Alex, stood his ground, his brow furrowed in disbelief. Ma'am, I can assure you we've taken the utmost care with your vehicle. There's no way we could have caused this kind of damage. Karen's face flushed with indignation. Don't give me that nonsense. I know you're kind, always trying to rip off unsuspecting customers. Well, not this time. I'm going to make sure you and this entire establishment pay for your incompetence. Alex took a deep breath, fighting the urge to match Karen's escalating hostility. I understand you're frustrated, but I can assure you we've done nothing wrong. If you'd like, we can review the security footage together to get to the bottom of this. Karen scoffed. Security footage? Please, as if that's going to prove anything. I demand a full refund, and I want it now. Sensing the situation was quickly spiraling out of control, the shop owner, Michael, hurried over to intervene. Now, let's all just take a step back and discuss this calmly. I'm sure we can find a reasonable solution. Reasonable? Karen spun around, her eyes blazing. The only reasonable solution is for you to give me my money back and fix my car, free of charge. I won't accept anything less. Michael raised his hands in a placating gesture. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but we can't simply refund the work we've already done. If there's an issue with the repairs, we're more than happy to address it, but we need to investigate further first. Karen's lips thinned into a tight line. Investigate? I don't have time for your excuses. This is unacceptable. She turned on her heel and stormed out of the shop, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Alex glanced at Michael, his expression a mix of frustration and concern. What are we going to do? She's already threatening to file a complaint and ruin our reputation. Michael let out a heavy sigh. Don't worry, Alex. I have a plan. That woman may think she's got us over a barrel, but she's about to learn the hard way that we don't take kindly to false accusations around here. With that, Michael hurried to his office, a determined glint in his eye. He was about to teach Karen a lesson The next morning, Karen stormed into the auto shop, her expression thunderous. All right, where's the manager? I want to speak to him immediately. Michael emerged from his office, a calm, professional demeanor masking the underlying annoyance. Good morning, Karen. How can I help you today? Help me? Karen scoffed. You can start by refunding my money and fixing my car. That's how you can help me. Michael held up a hand to silence her. Now, Karen, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I've reviewed the security footage from yesterday, and I have to say, I'm rather disappointed in your behavior. Karen's eyes widened, and she opened her mouth to retort, but Michael raised a finger, cutting her off. You see, the footage shows quite clearly that our mechanic, Alex, was extremely professional and courteous throughout the entire interaction. It was you who became agitated and aggressive, despite his attempts to resolve the situation amicably. Karen's face flushed with embarrassment, and she shifted uncomfortably. I don't know what you're talking about. That footage is probably doctored or tampered with. I demand to see it for myself. Michael nodded, gesturing towards the small television in the corner. By all means, take a look. I think you'll find that the footage speaks for itself. Reluctantly, Karen moved towards the television, her eyes glued to the screen as the events of the previous day unfolded. Her expression shifted from defiance to discomfort as she watched her own outburst unfold. When the footage ended, Karen stood in silence, her shoulders slumped. I don't understand. How could this have happened? Michael crossed his arms, his tone stern. It's simple, really. You came in here with a preconceived notion that we'd done something wrong, and you refused to listen to reason. Your sense of entitlement and quick temper got the better of you, and now you find yourself in an embarrassing situation. Karen opened and closed her mouth several times, but no words came out, She fidgeted, her gaze fixed on the floor. Now, Karen, Michael continued, I'm willing to let this incident slide, but on one condition. You need to apologize to Alex and admit that you were wrong. Only then will we consider moving forward with the repairs to your car. Karen's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. Apologize? You can't be serious. I'm the victim here. Michael shook his head, unswayed by her protest. The security footage clearly shows otherwise. If you want to keep your business here, you'll do as I say. Karen's jaw clenched, and for a moment, it seemed like she might refuse. But then, with a resigned sigh, she turned towards the shop and called out, Alex, I'm sorry. You were right, and I was wrong. Alex emerged from the back, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Apology accepted, Karen. Let's move forward and get your car fixed, shall we? As Karen reluctantly nodded, Michael couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. It seemed that Karen's sense of entitlement had finally. Over the next few days, Karen begrudgingly allowed the mechanics to work on her car, keeping a watchful eye on their every move. Despite her best efforts to find fault, the repairs proceeded smoothly, and soon her vehicle was back in pristine condition. As Karen prepared to pick up her car, Michael approached her with a serious expression. Karen, I'd like to have a word with you before you go. Karen eyed him warily. What is it now? Michael cleared his throat. I want to be upfront with you. After the incident the other day, I've decided to institute a new policy here at the shop. A new policy. Karen interrupted, her voice laced with suspicion. What kind of policy? Well, Michael continued, given your, shall we say, animated behavior, we've decided that all customers will be required to sign a contract agreeing to treat our staff with respect and civility. Failure to do so will result in us refusing service. Karen's eyes widened in indignation. What? You can't be serious. This is outrageous. I'm one of your best customers. Michael held up a hand to silence her. I'm sorry, Karen, but my decision is final. Either you sign the contract, or you can take your business elsewhere. Fuming, Karen snatched the document from Michael's hands and scanned it quickly. This is ridiculous. You're punishing me for standing up for myself. I won't stand for this. Then I'm afraid we have nothing more to discuss, Michael said calmly. The choice is yours. Karen glared at him, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the contract. For a moment, it seemed like she might explode in another tirade, but then a glimmer of resignation crossed her face. Fine, she spat, uncapping a pen and scribbling her name at the bottom of the page. But I want it noted that I'm only doing this under protest. Michael nodded, a slight smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Duly noted. Now let's get your car back to you, shall we? As Karen begrudgingly signed the contract, a sense of unease settled over her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had just been outmaneuvered, and the thought left a bitter taste in her mouth. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a series of challenges that would test her resolve and her sense of entitlement. A few weeks passed, and Karen tried her best to stay away from the auto shop, still fuming over the disrespect she had faced. However, as luck would have it, her car started acting up again, and she had no choice but to reluctantly return. As she pulled into the familiar parking lot, Karen's grip tightened on the steering wheel. All right, Karen, just keep it together. You can do this, she muttered to herself, steeling her nerves before stepping out of the car. The moment she walked through the door, Alex greeted her with a polite smile. Welcome back, Karen. What can we do for you today? Karen took a deep breath, trying to suppress the rising tide of irritation. My car is acting up again. I need you to take a look at it. Of course, Alex replied, his tone professional and courteous. Let's get it checked out. If you'd follow me, please. As they walked towards the service area, Karen couldn't help but notice the subtle changes in the shop. There were new signs posted, reminding customers to treat the staff with respect, and the entire atmosphere seemed more tense than before. Once they reached the car, Alex conducted a thorough inspection, taking his time to ensure he didn't miss anything. Karen watched him like a hawk, ready to pounce on any perceived misstep. After a while, Alex straightened up and faced Karen. "Well, it looks like the issue is with the alternator. We'll need to replace it, but it shouldn't take more than a couple of hours." Karen narrowed her eyes. "And how much is that going to cost me?" "Based on the parts and labor, the total will come to around $350, Alex replied, his tone calm and professional. Karen scoffed. $350? That's outrageous. I'm not paying that much. Alex held up a hand. "I understand your concern, but I can assure you that the price is fair and in line with industry standards. We've already done the work to diagnose the issue, and the parts are not cheap." "Well, I'm not paying it," Karen insisted, her voice rising. "I demand a discount, or I'll take my business elsewhere." Suddenly, Michael emerged from his office, drawn by the commotion. "Is everything all right here?" "No, everything is not all right," Karen exclaimed. "Your mechanic is trying to rip me off with this ridiculous repair cost." Michael regarded her with a measured gaze. "I'm sorry, Karen, but I'm afraid Alex is correct. The price he quoted is fair and in line with our standard rates." "Standard rates? This is daylight robbery," Karen shouted, her face flushed with anger. Michael held up a hand, his expression stern. "Karen, I must remind you that you signed our customer contract, agreeing to treat our staff with respect. Your current behavior is in direct violation of that agreement." Karen's eyes widened, and she opened her mouth to protest, but Michael cut her off. "If you continue to act in this manner, I'm afraid we'll have no choice but to refuse service. I'd suggest you take a moment to calm down and reconsider your position." Seething with rage, Karen turned on her heel and stormed out of the shop, her car keys clutched tightly in her hand. As the door slammed behind her, a heavy silence fell over the auto shop. Alex looked at Michael, his brow furrowed with concern. "Do you think she'll come back?" Michael sighed. "I'm not sure, Alex. But one thing's for certain. We're not going to let her bullying tactics undermine the integrity of our business. It's time we—" Over the next few days, Karen's anger only continued to simmer. She fumed over the injustice she had faced at the auto shop, vowing to find a way to get back at them. One evening, as she sat at her kitchen table, an idea began to take shape in her mind. Quickly, she pulled out her laptop and started researching local consumer protection agencies, her fingers practically flying across the keyboard. "If they think they can push me around, they've got another thing coming," Karen muttered to herself, a devious grin spreading across her face. The next morning, Karen marched into the auto shop, her expression a mask of false sincerity. "Good morning, Michael. I was hoping we could talk." Michael eyed her warily. "What can I do for you, Karen?" "Well," Karen began, "after much consideration, I've decided to give you another chance. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones and have my car repaired here, but on one condition." Michael raised an eyebrow. "And what would that be?" "I want a 50% discount on the repair costs," Karen stated, her chin held high. Michael stared at her, dumbfounded. "Absolutely not. The price we quoted is more than fair, and we're not in the business of giving steep discounts to unreasonable customers." Karen's expression darkened. "Unreasonable? How dare you? I'm one of your most valuable customers, and I deserve to be treated with respect." "Respect is earned, Karen," Michael replied calmly. "And frankly, your behavior has done nothing to inspire respect from us." Karen's face flushed with anger. "Well, then I'm going to make sure you regret this decision. I'm filing a formal complaint with the Consumer Protection Agency. They'll make sure you pay for your arrogance." Michael sighed. "Karen, I understand you're upset, but threatening us is not going to solve anything. If you have a legitimate grievance, I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you reasonably. Reasonable. Karen scoffed. The only thing I want is my 50% discount, and I'm not leaving until I get it. At that moment, Alex emerged from the back, his expression concerned. Is everything all right out here? Karen whirled around, pointing an accusatory finger at him. You stay out of this, you incompetent hack. This is between me and your boss. Alex held up his hands in a placating gesture. Look, Karen, I know you're upset, but there's no need for name-calling. If there's a problem, I'm sure we can work it out. Work it out. Karen sneered. The only way you can work this out is by giving me what I want. And if you don't, I'll make sure you regret it. With that, she stormed out of the shop, leaving a tense silence in her wake. Michael turned to Alex, his expression grim. I have a feeling this isn't the last we've heard from Karen. We need to be prepared for whatever she has in store for us. Alex nodded, his brow furrowed with concern. I just hope we can weather this storm. I don't know how much more of her antic. True to her word, Karen wasted no time in filing a complaint with the local Consumer Protection Agency. The next day, Michael and Alex were summoned to a meeting, a stern-faced investigator sitting across from them. Gentlemen, I've reviewed the complaint filed by Miss Karen. The investigator began, his tone serious. She claims you've been overcharging her and refusing to provide necessary repairs to her vehicle. Michael took a deep breath. I can assure you, sir, that's not the case at all. We've always provided fair and transparent pricing to all our customers, and we take great pride in the quality of our work. The investigator nodded. Be that as it may, I still need to look into this matter thoroughly. Can you provide me with the security footage from your shop, as well as any other relevant documentation? Of course, Michael replied, his expression resolute. We have nothing to hide. I'll have our team gather everything you need. As Michael and Alex left the meeting, their faces etched with concern, Karen watched from a distance, a triumphant grin plastered on her face. That'll teach them to mess with me, she muttered, her fingers tapping away on her phone as she fired off a flurry of angry messages to her friends, detailing her victory over the auto shop. For the next few days, the investigator pored over the evidence, meticulously examining the security footage and reviewing the shop's repair records. Michael and Alex cooperated fully, providing any and all information requested, confident that the truth would prevail. Finally, the investigator called them back in for a follow-up meeting. As they sat across from him, the tension in the room was palpable. Gentlemen, the investigator began, I've carefully reviewed all the evidence, and I have to say, I'm quite impressed with the level of professionalism and transparency demonstrated by your business. Michael and Alex exchanged a relieved glance, but the investigator held up a hand to silence them. However, I'm afraid I can't say the same for Ms. Karen's conduct. The security footage clearly shows her becoming aggressive and belligerent, despite your staff's efforts to resolve the situation amicably. The investigator paused, his gaze hardening. Furthermore, her repeated demands for unreasonable discounts and her threats to file a complaint are clear violations of the customer contract she signed. Michael nodded. That's exactly what we've been trying to convey, sir. Ms. Karen's sense of entitlement has been a constant source of frustration for us, and we've tried our best to handle the situation professionally. The investigator leaned back in his chair. Well, I'm happy to report that your actions have been fully vindicated. I'll be informing Ms. Karen that her complaint has been dismissed and that she's been warned about her future conduct. As the investigator rose to leave, Michael couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over him. Thank you, sir. We really appreciate your thorough investigation and impartial judgment. The investigator nodded. It's my job to ensure fairness and protect both businesses and consumers. In this case, it's clear that you've been the ones dealing with an unreasonable customer. I hope this serves as a lesson to Miss Karen. With that, the investigator departed, leaving Michael and Alex to bask in the satisfaction of a. Karen was fuming as she left the Consumer Protection Agency's office, her face flushed with humiliation. She couldn't believe that her carefully crafted complaint had been dismissed so easily. This is an outrage. She muttered under her breath, her hands clenched into tight fists. How dare they side with those incompetent mechanics? I'll show them who they're dealing with. Determined to exact her revenge, Karen began plotting her next move. She knew she couldn't go back to the auto shop and make a scene, not after the warning she had received. But that didn't mean she was out of options. Scrolling through her social media accounts, Karen started digging up as much dirt as she could on the auto shop and its employees. She combed through reviews, looking for any negative comments or complaints she could use to her advantage. To her delight, she found a few disgruntled customers who had left scathing reviews, complaining about the shop's poor service and overpriced repairs. Seizing the opportunity, Karen sprang into action, flooding these reviews with her own vitriolic comments, further amplifying the negative sentiment. This is just the beginning, Karen muttered, her fingers flying across the keyboard. If they think they've won, they're about to learn the hard way that you don't mess with Karen. As she continued her digital assault, Karen also began reaching out to local news outlets, pitching a story about the corrupt auto shop and its unethical practices. She painted herself as the victim, a hard-working customer who had been wronged by a greedy, dishonest business. This'll teach them a lesson, Karen gloated, her eyes gleaming with vindictiveness. They may have won the first round, but I'm not going down without a fight. Little did she know, her actions were being closely monitored by the investigator who had dismissed her initial complaint. Concerned about the escalating situation, he decided to pay another visit to the auto shop. As Michael and Alex greeted the investigator, their expressions were a mix of surprise and apprehension. "What can we do for you, sir?" Michael asked, his voice tinged with concern. The investigator sighed, "I'm afraid I have some troubling news. It seems Ms. Karen has been actively spreading negative reviews and misinformation about your business online." Michael and Alex exchanged a worried glance, their hearts sinking. "We suspected as much," Michael admitted. "She's been hell-bent on getting revenge ever since her complaint was dismissed." The investigator nodded. "Well, I want you to know that I'm taking this matter very seriously. I've already contacted the relevant authorities and social media platforms to address the situation." "Thank you, sir," Alex said, relieved. "We appreciate your efforts to help us. This has been a nightmare, and we just want to focus on serving our customers honestly and professionally." The investigator offered a reassuring smile. "I understand, and I can assure you that we're doing everything in our power to put a stop to Ms. Karen's campaign of harassment. Just stay vigilant, and let me know if she tries anything else." As the investigator departed, Michael and Alex felt a sense of cautious optimism. They knew the battle wasn't over, but they were determined to weather the storm and aim. Over the next few weeks, Karen's relentless campaign against the auto shop continued unabated. She flooded social media with scathing reviews, and her constant barrage of calls and emails to local news outlets kept the pressure on. However, the investigator and the authorities were quick to respond, swiftly removing the false and defamatory content from online platforms. Karen's attempts to sway public opinion were quickly thwarted, much to her growing frustration. As her efforts to destroy the auto shop's reputation began to falter, Karen grew increasingly desperate. She resorted to more extreme measures, even going so far as to stage a protest outside the shop, complete with homemade signs and chants. But her theatrical display only served to further alienate her from the community. Passers-by and customers alike looked on with a mix of pity and disdain, shaking their heads at her blatant disregard for the truth. Sensing that her plan was unraveling, Karen finally conceded defeat. With a heavy heart, she admitted to herself that she had been outmaneuvered and outmatched by the determined team at the auto shop. One day, as she was driving past the familiar building, Karen caught a glimpse of Michael and Alex through the window, smiling and chatting with a customer. A pang of remorse and envy washed over her, and she realized just how far she had strayed from the values of civility and integrity. Reluctantly, Karen pulled into the parking lot and stepped out of her car, her shoulders slumped in defeat. As she approached the entrance, the door swung open, and Michael greeted her with a cautious expression. "Karen," he said, his tone measured. "What can we do for you?" Karen took a deep breath, mustering up the courage to speak. I want to apologize," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been absolutely terrible, and I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused." Michael blinked, surprised by her sudden change of heart. "Well, I have to say, this is a bit unexpected. What brought on this change of attitude?" Karen's gaze fell to the ground, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I've realized that my actions were wrong, and that I'd only succeeded in making a fool of myself. I was so caught up in my own sense of entitlement that I lost sight of what's truly important." Michael nodded, a hint of understanding in his eyes. "I appreciate your apology, Karen. It takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong." Karen looked up, her eyes pleading. "Do you think there's any way we can start over? I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like to try to make amends." Michael paused for a moment, considering her request. Then a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Well, I suppose we could give it a try. But this time, I'd suggest you leave your sense of entitlement at the door." Karen nodded, a wave of relief washing over her. "I will, I promise." "Thank you, Michael, for giving me another chance." As she stepped into the auto shop, Karen felt a newfound sense of humility and a genuine desire to make things right. It was a long, difficult road, but she was determined to prove that she could be a model customer, one who treated the staff with the respect and dignity they deserved. In the end, Karen's journey had been a harsh but necessary lesson in the consequences of her entitled behavior. And as she moved forward, she vowed to never take for granted the hard work and dedication of the people who kept her car